Hi, I'm Faith Cantor, and as you found your way to my website, or perhaps my YouTube channel, I thought I'd just tell you a little bit about me and my story. Um, I guess for me it started many years ago when I was a child, and I'm just going to throw you in at the deep end here because I was like a lot of people, I was abused by a family friend, and I pretty much blocked it out, most of it. But by the time I was in my teens, I was really, really unhappy. I was suffering from depression. I was in a lot of pain with headaches and things. And I hated myself. I mean, I really did. So I guess it wasn't a surprise then that I took up drinking quite young because it made me feel confident and happy. And then eventually it would just cause problems and make me feel really unhappy. But initially it helped, or it felt like it did. I took up smoking, and before long I was doing drugs fairly young as well, and very often as well. So I guess I spent most of my youth swinging between drinking a lot and doing a lot of drugs and cutting myself and OCDs about all sorts of things and really pushing myself all the time. I had to prove, that I was lovable to people. I was not myself. I was not authentic in any way or form. I thought everyone else was better than me, was prettier than me, was more popular than me, and I just wanted to be like them. So I was a bit of a mess, I guess, and I guess it continued like that. And I always held down a job, and I was, I paid my way and things like that. And I had my own flat from about the age of 16. So I guess for some people who didn't know me very well, I seemed to be doing quite well, but the people that did know me knew that I wasn't. So I continued like that for a number of years, and eventually I started to get really bad IBS, and the headaches were quite intense, and I was fatigued quite a lot, and I was just burning the candle at both ends. I was working a lot of hours, and then I was partying a lot of hours as well. And I just kind of thought I was normal, that's what everyone did, and but also I kind of knew that I didn't want to continue like this either. So after a number of years, I ended up in traveling to India, and when I was in India, I got a really, really severe stomach bug, and I was actually ill with that for a number of weeks, but not recovered from it for at least it was quite a few months on when I was still feeling quite unwell from it. When I returned to England, not long afterwards, I actually contracted glandular fever, and I can see now, looking now that I have the knowledge that I do from all the research I've done, that I obviously had adrenal fatigue and had that for a number of years, and thus when I got unwell with a fairly serious illness, I just didn't have anything left to fight with. Most other people would just get over glandular fever and the stomach bug, but there was nothing left to fight with. I've been in this fight or flight response for most of my life, certainly from being a young teen, even younger perhaps. So there was that. By the time I got the glandular fever, my body and mind was pretty depleted, and I didn't realise, I just assumed the glandular fever was going on for a long time because I never really got better from it. And after at least a year, I guess, of the symptoms getting progressively worse as well, I went to the doctor and started having tests and all the other things, and I was referred to specialists and to different hospitals and things like that. And eventually a number of them came back and said, you've got chronic fatigue syndrome, or ME, whatever you want to call it. So I guess what happened then is I instantly thought, oh my God, I don't know if people get well from that. And I was, quite upset and confused, especially as the doctor just said, go away and hopefully it will sort itself out, look after yourself and hopefully it'll sort itself out. And I thought, right, okay, there must be something else I can do. Surely this is not, it's not just gonna go away by itself. So in this time, I was getting progressively worse, and initially, not long afterwards, I was housebound for most of the time, and then not long after that, I became bedbound much of the time. Just going to the toilet or walking up the stairs was enough to exhaust me for the rest of the day. So I guess I got quite depressed. The depression got worse again then, and I thought, this is not a life I want to live, and I started to think suicidal thoughts again, and then I thought, there must be them again. I thought there must be a way out of this. This can't be it. This can't be what we're put on this planet to do. Is be ill. So I started researching people's recovery stories, not just recovery stories from ME, but also recovery stories from cancer and all sorts of other illnesses, especially things like terminal cancer and stuff. Because I started to think, if they can get well from a diagnosis of terminal cancer when some of them are only told they've got weeks to live, then I can get well from this, surely. And it really inspired me, and I spent all the energy I did have researching and looking at ways to get well, and like I said, not just from ME but from everything, because I started to realise that changing our what's going on in our mind, in our home, in our body, it's that sort of approach sort of seemed to be working for everyone, So I guess it's about the same sort of time that I read a book called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman, and I just thought, wow, this is so what I need at the moment. So I highly recommend you go and read that if you haven't, and there's a DVD, but read the book first because it's much better. Anyway, I digress. And then, I read that book, and it really made me realise that, there were lots of things that I could do that people that were living the busy life that I had been living, working all the hours God sends and looking after their families and, just normal stuff, couldn't do. And as a child, I remember my parents used to take me for walks, and they used to show me the birds and the butterflies and the plants and stuff. We used to spend a lot of time in nature, and I hadn't done that for years, really. So I guess I started initially to watch nature from my bedroom window, because initially I didn't have the energy to do anything else. So I'd sit in a chair at my bedroom window, and I'd look at the squirrels and the butterflies and the birds and the plants and just the world going by. And I thought, wow, I've missed so much of this in doing all this busy stuff all the time. I've missed appreciating how amazing this planet is, how wonderful life is, and I don't mean just my life, because I still at that time wasn't quite on that bandwagon, but life as in the birds and the plants and all the other stuff. And it really made me appreciate what I could do, and I started doing that more, and then eventually I could manage to sit in the garden sometimes. So I'd take a blanket out and sit in the garden and appreciate it there. And it really really helped, I think, just make me see, I was missing so much before, so many of the little things, so many of the relationship things, so many of just being at one with this beautiful world, I guess. And about at the same sort of time, whilst I was researching and stuff, I realised that meditation was going to be quite good for me, because I'd been in this fight or flight response for so many years, and I felt that I needed to calm my system down, calm my mind down, calm my system down, and get out of this fight or flight response where you're just overproducing all these stress hormones all the time. So I had suffered from insomnia for about 15 years at that point. So I started meditating, and within a few days I went from having 2 or 3 hours broken sleep a night to 7 or 8 hours a night. It was amazing. And even now I get a good night's sleep most nights, and this is years later. And the only time I don't is if I realise I haven't been meditating again for a while. So it really, really does help. And not just with the sleep, but it just helps, like I said, calm the system down. So that really helped. And I read a book during my research, came across a book by someone called Sasha Allenby, and that's about her recovery from ME using EFT and tapping, or EFT tapping, same thing. And that really helped me to see that I could address, these deep-seated responses, emotions, problems due to the traumatic events of my childhood, but also due to, a lot of other stuff that had happened since as well. How I felt about myself, how what sort of relationships I'd had, and all these other things. So I started dealing with all that, and in that time I started having some really big shifts, and I just kept researching and kept doing anything that I came across, and everything I tried chipped away just a little bit at it. Some of it more than others. Like some of the stuff at the beginning, like the meditation, the EFT and things, that was chipping away at like my ill health for like a 10% at a time, maybe even more. But then some other stuff I tried would only chip away at 2 or 3% of it. But everything happened. I can't get my words out. Everything chipped away a little bit. I was already eating fairly healthy at that point because of the IBS. But I've made a few tweaks there, made sure I was getting enough nutrients in, omega-3s, proteins, good carbs and stuff with each meal, and I was eating regularly, doing all these sort of things to help support the adrenals, which I felt was an underlying problem there. And then I did some pairing technique. I went with GUMPT, did the GUMPT process. I also did a little bit of work with the Optimum Health Clinic. I tried all sorts of different things. I started body brushing, which initially made me feel really quite detoxy. So actually made the ME symptoms worse, but then that cleared because it made it worse because I started releasing the toxins that were built up in my muscles and had been there for a very, very long time. So it started helping the lymphatics work properly and releasing all that stuff. So there was a lot of releasing on a physical and mental level going on. I changed my cleaning products so that they were all natural. I changed my hair and skin and cosmetics and stuff, so that was all natural. I basically detoxed everything. I call it my whole life approach to detox, and I was detoxing my mind through the work I was doing, like I said, with the EFT, the meditation, and a few other things that I tried. And I was detoxing my body, but I was also detoxing my home. And like I said, I started to get better. And it did take about 2.5 years from the moment I was like, no, that's it. I am getting well. That's it. But actually, for probably about the last 1.5 years of that, I was already functioning at about 90% health anyway. So it was only about a year to get to about 90% health. And I think it's important to remember that, there's no magic pill out there. We all took a long time to get unwell with whatever illness we've got usually. So sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get well again, but also don't use that as almost an excuse. I see clients these days and they say, oh, well, it takes most people X amount of time, so I guess it will take me that amount of time, but that's not necessarily the case. You know, it depends what you're trying, when you're trying it, and what led to you getting unwell in the first place. But that's certainly something I say to people to tap on. You know, if you've got this belief it's going to take a long time, tap on that, because it doesn't necessarily have to be, and that belief itself will be holding you back. And I guess, like I said, I started getting well, and people started saying to me, you need to share your story and you need to help other people. So it just kind of snowballed, and I now see clients face to face, or I see coaching clients, which you can find out about on some other pages of the WIS website. And I've written a book called Living a Life Less Toxic, which encompasses all the things that helped me get well. It has lots of recipes and guidance and all sorts of stuff in there. And I write lots of blogs, and I'm just sort of out there sharing my story and trying to help as many people as possible, I guess. So really, that's me in a nutshell, and well, that's my story, should I say, in a nutshell, my story of ill health to health. And if you want to find out more, or if you want to work with me or whatever, then use the contact form on one of the pages of the website. You'll see it on the tabs across the top. Or if you want to connect in other ways, I'm on all of the social media pretty much. There's Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, all of them. So yeah, it'd be great to hear from you. So thank you for listening, and take care. Goodbye.